am the invisible child in my family, a title that has stung me for as long as I can remember. On warm summer days when the light poured through our kitchen windows, it felt like each ray was aimed squarely at my sibling, illuminating their smile, while I faded into the walls, blending with the white paint. My sibling always stood front and center, showered with affection and accolades that felt like daggers to my heart. I can still recall the birthday celebrations, how everyone's laughter echoed like a sweet melody, while I clapped from the sidelines, a mere spectator to the warmth that enveloped them. "You took the first step solo. You are so brave," my parents would exclaim, their eyes sparkling with pride as they overlooked my own milestones like a mist that evaporated too quickly for anyone to notice. It was as if I was living in a shadow, merely existing as a background character in a play that was never mine. The house, with its echoing halls and fresh daffodils in the garden, felt like a fortress of love where only one child was ever let in. I would sit on the outside, hidden behind the doorframe, watching family gatherings unfold, my heart both full of pride for my sibling and heavy with the weight of my own invisibility. The smell of vanilla cake wafted through the air during celebrations, but instead of sweetening my spirit, it clung to me, leaving a bitter taste of longing. Every graduation moment was another chance missed, another opportunity for me to shine erased beneath the light that so brightly shone on them. "Amelia, can you pass the camera? We want to take another picture with your sibling." They were always taking photos, always capturing their popularity in high definition, while I stood frozen, blending into the blurred background of their thriving life. Then the news hit me like a ton of bricks. My parents planned to pass down the family estate, valued at $2 million, exclusively to my sibling, erasing any glimmer of hope I held for an equal share. I, sitting on the old couch in the dimly lit living room, had been scrolling through my phone when I overheard my parents speaking in hushed tones. "It is only fair. They have always been the exemplary child. We need to reward that," my mother said, her voice soft and certain, like the touch of a gentle breeze in springtime, yet it collided harshly with my heart like a stormy wave crashing onto rocks. The air turned cold and dense around me as I processed their words. I felt as if time had slowed, the second hand of the clock ticking loudly in my ears. Betrayal wrapped tightly around my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs as I stood from the couch and stepped out, unable to contain the flood of emotions surging through me any longer. "What was that about?" I finally asked, my voice trembling as low and quiet as a whisper lost in the wind. Their eyes went wide with surprise, but instead of passion or rebellion, they exhibited shock, truly seeing me for the first time. "Oh, Amelia, you were not supposed to hear that," my father stammered, his brow furrowing. "Try telling me it is not true, that you are not really planning to give everything to them while I get nothing," I snapped, the words breaking free like a wild animal escaping from a cage. "Please do not pretend you do not know how you have always favored them." "What do you mean?" my mother interjected, the innocent tone sounding almost rehearsed. "You have always been in our hearts, Amelia." I could see it in her eyes. She was trying to brush the truth beneath a delicate rug of denial, hoping the dust would simply disappear. It was as if I was standing in quicksand, and every time I tried to claw my way out, the ground just sunk deeper. "Some hearts are more cherished than others, clearly. Have you ever been to a single one of my competitions or even acknowledged my achievements?" I barked, my cheeks flushing crimson with the heat of rage and resentment bubbling inside. The crumbled papers from my college applications lay scattered like husks of dreams I never truly got to explore. "I was never enough for you too. What do you think this proves?" "Amelia, that's not true. You know we love you," my father exclaimed, his voice rising in a way that nearly drowned my own. He stepped forward as if to reach for my shoulder, but I recoiled. Each inch they encroached made me feel more suffocated. "Love, is that what you call this?" I spat, waving my hand in the air as if brushing aside an invisible curtain. "I have spent my life growing up in your shadows, a ghost you ignore when it suits you best. Look at the way you treated them. Their life is a parade of success and affection, while I am constantly overlooked. I am just a spectator at my own birthday party." Each word felt like a sharp knife slicing deeper into their perception of me. My whole life I had swallowed my bitterness, choking down every grievance, but now it was spewed forth like venom. "But it is not like that. You have your talents, your own success. Can't you see?" My mother's voice trembled, but there was a note of desperation lacing her words, desperation that felt almost sickening to me. "We support you in other ways." Supporting me? How supporting me really is? By overlooking me? By keeping your love held only for them? I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes, mixing with the fury bubbling beneath the surface. "That is not support, that is neglect." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with unspoken truths and repressed emotions. I stole a glance at them, trying to decipher what was hidden behind their now blank expressions. Maybe they did not realize how deeply their favoritism cut, how each celebration was a reminder of my insignificance. "Do you even care?" I asked, my voice cracking as the realization of my family's inequality weighed heavily within me. And in that moment of raw vulnerability, they faltered. My parents exchanged glances that spoke more than their lips ever could. I would not let it go. I could no longer afford to be invisible. I felt a fire ignite within. It would no longer be my sibling who shone in the spotlight, not if I had anything to do about it. The air crackled with an ultimatum as I broke away from their gaze, a determination brewing in the pit of my stomach, one that would soon burn the embers of my past to the ground. I would take back my life. I would make my presence felt. Determined not to let this injustice pass silently, I began gathering my strength. The sun hung low in the hot sky of Greenville, casting long shadows across the living room where my family frequently gathered. This room, filled with remnants of shared laughter and family memories, had started to feel like a prison, echoing with unsaid words and suffocating silence. I could almost hear the walls whispering my frustrations back to me as I took a deep breath, steeling myself for yet another attempt to express how I felt. "Guys, can we talk?" I began, my voice trembling slightly, feeling the anticipation bubble in my stomach like a shaken soda can. I had rehearsed it all in my mind, word for word, but the moment I faced them, my planned speech began to fizzle out like a weak firework. My sibling lounged casually on the oversized couch, scrolling through their phone, while my parents passed glances at each other, their eyes tugging at the corners in amusement. "What is it, honey?" my mother replied, her tone overly sweet, betraying the irritation simmering beneath. She smiled, that patronizing smile that always chipped away at my resolve. "You look like you have something serious to say." "Yeah," I pressed on, nervous but determined. "It's just I really think we need to consider what selling Grandma's diamond ring really means." The words lingered, heavy in the air between us like a stone sinking slowly into murky water. My sibling glanced up, lacking the respectful attention I desperately sought. "Seriously, it's just a ring," they scoffed, dismissing it like a piece of old clothing. "We'll make some good cash off it, and Grandma wouldn't want it sitting around collecting dust. But it is so much more than that." My voice wobbled, the vulnerability spilled out, fraying the edges of my carefully constructed facade. "It represents our family. It's an heirloom. You can't just sell it to make a quick buck." The words rushed forth, fueled by the simmering sense of betrayal that had been building inside me. I feared I sounded too emotional, too needy. How could I make them understand? "Amelia," my father sighed, squinting at me through his reading glasses, the irritation visibly blooming on his face. "It's not a big deal, it's just a business decision. We need to be practical." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, dismissiveness flashing in his eyes. It was as though my feelings were irrelevant matter to them, discarded before they even had the opportunity to breathe. "Practical?" I echoed. "What's practical about selling a piece of our history, the last remnant of Grandma's love for us?" I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, each heartbeat pulsing with a mix of anger and hurt. "That's a bit dramatic, don't you think?" my sibling interjected, now mirroring my father's posture, an act of solidarity that felt like a sharp dagger in my gut. "How is it a remnant of love if it just sits there?" My heart twisted painfully. Their tone was dismissive, yet an odd sense of rivalry sparked in their eyes. It was as if my sibling relished in this power, enjoying the thrill of watching me squirm under their gaze. How could they not see the weight of this moment? I thought they would understand. I remember Grandma saying that it was supposed to be passed down. It was never just a piece of jewelry to her, I argued, the tremor in my voice revealing the deep wound exposed by their actions. "Selling it feels like betraying her trust. Do you really want that on your conscience?" My voice cracked slightly, but I held firm, hoping they might find a shred of compassion buried beneath their careless facade. "She's gone, Amelia," my father said with surprising finality, his tone finalizing the conversation like a gavel in a courtroom. "Her love doesn't rest in the ring. It rests in us, how we live our lives now. We can't keep a ring locked away forever just because of sentiment." The finality bombarded me like a harsh wind whipping through the branches. This was not just a battle over a ring, but a fight for recognition, for the place I held in this family that felt more like a ghost town where echoes of my voice faded into oblivion. I thought perhaps they would consider my feelings, share in my grief. Instead, I was met with a wall, the same wall that had been built every time I tried to reach out. "Just think about it for a moment," I pressed, desperation creeping into my tone. "Can't we at least discuss it more? It might not even be gone forever, we could find another way." My heart raced. I could see my pleadings falling like leaves in autumn, destined to wither away against the cold ground. "I think you are exaggerating, Amelia," my sibling said, their voice casual as though I was simply droning on about the weather. "Just let it go, you are making it into something it is not." "Something it is not?" I scoffed, the bitter taste of frustration coating my tongue. "It is everything. It is where your success stems from, how you got your degree, what care and love Grandma infused into our lives, and you want to use it to buy trendy clothes." My voice rose and the distress in my chest clawed its way up my throat. Enough of this dramatics, my mother shouted, her patience wearing thin, her smile completely vanished. We are not discussing this any further. We have decided your sibling has worked hard and deserves this chance. Her words hung heavily in the air like an iron chain I could feel tightening around my heart. But it's not fair, I pressed once more, even as I felt dread creeping in. Would they ever hear me? This is not just about them, it affects all of us. Can you not see how eating away at our bond will shatter everything we rooted ourselves in? Amelia, my father's voice boomed, loud enough to echo off the walls, drowning my indignation. Stop it, you need to learn to accept the decisions of this family. Each word struck me and drew blood deeper than any knife. Their actions felt like a personal betrayal, as if they were ripping away my identity, but my turmoil screamed for recognition, urging me to stand taller, to fight harder. The cracks in our family foundation were visible, and I was standing on the edge, ready to tip. What would it take for them to finally listen? The air hummed with laughter and clinking glasses as I stood on the fringes of our vibrant family gathering. Colorful balloons bobbed gently, tethered to tables overflowing with platters of food. The savory scent of baked ham wafted through the room, but my stomach twisted with a bitter blend of envy and inadequacy. My eyes were glued to my sibling, who stood at the center of attention, the light shining brightly upon them like a golden halo. With each round of applause and every word of praise, the weight of my own insignificance bore down heavier on my chest. Can you believe it? My sibling beamed, a trophy glinting in their hand, a testament to their latest accomplishment. All those late nights paid off. Laughter erupted and everyone leaned in closer, basking in their glow. My parents clapped so enthusiastically that their hands appeared red, faces lit with pride. I stood there, a shadow uninvited to this radiant celebration, pretending to relish this moment when in truth each compliment felt like salt in my wounds. Great job, I forced a smile as I approached them, yet the corners of my mouth twisted in a way that felt alien. That's fantastic. I managed, forcing the words past my dry throat, the clamor of the room swirling around me like a tempest. I poured myself a glass of punch, the sugary sweetness doing nothing to quell the bitterness lodged deep within. Thanks, I appreciate it. My sibling waved the trophy with a flourish, and the crowd burst into fresh cheers. I turned away, the exhilaration of their triumph washing over me like a frigid tide. The sight of proud smiles illuminated my parents' faces, sliced through me with the precision of a knife. I was the quiet observer, always the quiet one, fading into the background while everyone else flourished. I swallowed hard, stifling the urge to scream. I wanted so badly to be noticed, to be seen, yet here I was, invisible amidst this celebration. Amelia, come join us. My aunt's voice rang out like a siren beckoning. I forced my feet to move toward her, every step feeling like trudging through thick mud. Amelia, tell us about your work. How is everything going? My aunt's eager smile showed no sign of the churning turmoil inside me. It's okay. Busy, I guess, I mumbled, shifting my gaze away from the sparkling conversations. Inside my mind, I was screaming, I am here, I am more than okay. I wanted to shout that I too had dreams, aspirations, and talents, yet they all remained buried under layers of silence. I felt small, exiled to the margins, while my sibling took up all the space, thriving, basking in admiration like a sunflower turning towards the sun. Just okay, my uncle chimed in, a teasing glimmer in his eyes. You used to have so many plans. Yeah, Amelia, what happened to that big dream of being an artist? My cousin echoed, the laughter surrounding her filling the air like a thick fog. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. Normally I would roll with it, shake it off, and laugh along, but today the laughter felt like jagged shards of glass. I stammered. It's the same, just busy with other things. I picked at my fingernails, still watching my sibling light up the room. Maybe I should get back to that. My voice trailed off, almost lost in the symphony of others' celebrations. Sounds good. Next family gathering, we expect to see you bringing something too. My uncle chuckled, clearly in jest, but the underlying implication of my overshadowing siblings' achievements hung heavily in the air. Yeah, Amelia, make it happen. They all echoed, the chants bouncing off the walls. The laughter swirled around me, merging with the taste of sour regret on my tongue. I wanted to scream, to bring down the festive spirit like a storm shattering a perfect day. Torn between a facade of indifference and the tempest inside, I held my breath and smiled tightly, as if it could mask the jagged edges of my heart. Just another moment, I told myself silently, just get through this one. But as the evening wore on and the accolades continued, I felt as if my insides were splitting apart. Each story of my siblings' triumph felt like the family erasing me further from existence, as they relished each memory tied to their achievements. I excused myself to the kitchen, the chaos of voices fading behind me as I tossed the still full cup of punch into the sink. I stood before the cool, stainless steel surface of the counter, feeling the tears welling up in my eyes, hot, heavy tears that felt like betrayal against my tried-and-true smile. Why can't they see me? I whispered to myself, the question echoing in the emptiness around me. My reflection stared back, a stranger wearing a mask of forced composure. Why did the world choose them? Why was I tossed aside? I fought against the swell of emotion. The current was too powerful and I felt myself dancing at the edge of the precipice. Suddenly I burst. It was as if a dam had broken inside me, everything tearing loose at once. I am not forgot. I cried out to the void of the kitchen, my voice trembling with force, each word tinged with desperation. I will not be sidelined. I sank to the floor, the cool tiles grounding me as the tears flowed freely, streaming down my cheeks. Each sob felt like a catharsis, as I released years of pent-up feelings into the silence of that moment. The anger and despair churned within until clarity emerged, shimmering like sunlight after a storm. I could not go on like this, silently trailing behind. I had to change the narrative. As the weight of my upset subsided, a chilling sense of determination took its place. Thoughts formed like a carefully set plan, each bold and drastic measure whispering promises of reclaiming my lost place in this family. I would not bow out quietly anymore. Taken hostage by feelings of inadequacy for so long, I finally felt a spark of something far more riveting, a resolve like none I had ever known before. No more being the forgotten child, I murmured, the words solidifying my intention. No more watching from the sidelines. I wiped my eyes, allowing a sense of purpose to wash over me like a surge of warmth embracing the chill of the night. I will make them see me. They won't forget me again. The air hung thick with tension as I settled into my oversized chair in the living room, the plush fabric enveloping me like a comforting embrace. The soft light from the table lamp cast a warm glow, but tonight it couldn't chase away the chill I felt as I prepared to watch my sibling unravel. I had spent weeks in the shadows, carefully gathering pieces of a puzzle that painted a very different picture of them than the one our family adored. The truth was like a heavy brick in my stomach, and though I had kept it hidden, I could almost feel its edges pressing against my insides, yearning for release. My parents chatted animatedly with family friends, their laughter resonating against the walls. Yet my eyes were fixed on my sibling. They sat on the edge of their seat, a nervous twitch in their hand tracing the rim of their glass. A confident facade was cracking, and I watched every moment with a thrilling mix of satisfaction and anticipation. Everything was in place, my plan executed with precision. The timing was perfect because soon the whispers would gain volume and the truth would emerge from the muck I had unearthed. Have you seen the latest stocks reports? A family friend commented, leaning in slightly as if to share a secret with the group. They say some investments are really taking off. Heard your sibling took a gamble on something rather risky. A little too risky for our taste, don't you think? I shifted slightly, pretending to focus on the conversation all while squashing back the giddy rush I felt as our friends turned their attention toward my sibling. The air in the room shifted as uncertainty crept into their expressions, dimming the former brightness of the gathering. My sibling's expression flickered, scanning the room for support, and I relished the change brewing behind their feigned smile. What are you talking about? They laughed, but the unease in their voice was painted stark against the laughter of friends that now felt deafeningly distant. You know I only invest in safe stocks. I would never take unnecessary risks. My track record speaks for itself. Really. A family friend snickered, raising an eyebrow. Heard you started a business venture, kept it secret from the entire family too. Was it something like that? Secrets rarely end well, do they? It was a beautifully crafted trap. Every word spun perfectly around my sibling, tightening the noose of tension around their neck. I could see them wrestle with their response, and deep down, part of me reveled in their discomfort. What a ridiculous accusation. My sibling's voice climbed an octave, the edge of panic spilling through. I am committed to my work, dedicated and loyal to our family. Why would I ever betray that? My pulse quickened, the thrill coursing through me. I had waited for this confrontation, the moment when the seams would finally burst. Well, family often hides things from each other, don't they? I chimed in, feigning innocence while savoring every word. Wouldn't you agree? I leaned forward, my heart racing as I met their gaze with a look that promised they were about to be unmasked. Amelia, what are you trying to imply? They snapped, exposing a hint of their frustration. The crumbling confidence was a sight to behold. You can't just accuse me without any proof. But I have proof, I insisted softly, the words slicing through the tensions like butter. I let my eyes glide over the familiar faces turning pale, their conversations faltering as they processed what I had hinted at. It was a dance, a beautifully choreographed performance. Isn't it strange how all these stories begin to swirl about the same time as the rumors? Perhaps someone should investigate what's really going on behind closed doors? What do you mean? My mother interjected, her voice concerned, brows knitting together in confusion. What rumors? What are you two arguing about? I could see my siblings' composure fracturing. They were caught like a fly trapped in a spider's web, and I wanted to drink in every shudder of betrayal rippling through them. I mean, your beloved child has something to hide. I said, my voice dipped in playful mockery. It seems they have with quite a few investments, secret, clandestine ones. Isn't that right? I directed my gaze directly at my sibling, daring them to respond. They snapped their mouths shut, fists clenching on the armrest as their breath turned shallow. This isn't what you think, you wouldn't dare. Their eyes desperately darted between my parents and our friends, as if seeking an ally but finding only confusion and concern. This is just a misunderstanding. Is it? I challenged, swallowing the sweet taste of revenge that lingered on my tongue. Is it just a misunderstanding that you're risking our family's reputation? That you've been deceiving everyone, hiding this from mom and dad? How could you even think that would go unnoticed? The air thickened with disbelief as murmurings escalated among our friends. We trusted you, one of them finally chimed in. This is shocking, you never said a word to us. Anxious rhythm of their heartbeat echoed within my own chest, matching the chaotic shift in the air. I felt every fraught breath slip through their lips. Fury began to replace the mask of confidence plastered on their face. How could you do this? They hissed, eyes narrowing dangerously. You have no idea what this is about. Really? I leaned back almost smugly as my heart danced with elation. The truth was now spilling into the open, jagged like fresh wounds. I don't need to know the details because the truth speaks for itself. You haven't been honest with us. How can we trust you now? How can mom and dad believe anything you say? My mother looked between us, a whirlwind of confusion twisting in her expression. We always believed you were doing great things. I had no idea. I can explain. My sibling's voice was sharp, cracking under pressure. I did this for us. I'm trying to build something. I thought. What did you think? I interrupted, my tone dripping with sarcasm. That lying would keep the family together? That doing things behind our backs would make you the favorite? The room pulsed with murmurs, the shattering of my sibling's reputation ringing like a dull bell. Yes, I thought, let the truth be a heavy weight on their shoulders. Each whisper, each flicker of disbelief added another brick to the wall I was building around them, creating a fortress of shame. Let them ponder, was their golden child still golden, or had the tarnish begun to show? And as I sipped my drink, the sweetness of revenge tinged every inch of me, tending to the fires of redemption I had ignited. They were not the selfless overachiever our parents had always believed. I dared to hope as I took in the warmth of the unfolding chaos, the pleasure of knowing that I would not just be a shadow anymore. A new truth was surfacing, and I was ready to watch the storm unleash its fury finally. The day of the family meeting arrived, and my heart raced with nervous anticipation. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the dining room table, which felt like a battleground waiting for its soldiers. I could smell the faint scent of my mother's famous lasagna wafting in from the kitchen, a comfort that felt like a distant memory amid the whirlwind of emotions that swirled within me. As we gathered around the table, the air was thick with a sense of impending confrontation, each family member locked in their silent battle of nerves. My father sat at the head, his brows furrowed with a seriousness that seemed to echo through the room, while my mother fiddled nervously with her silverware, a dance of anxiety that had become all too familiar. I could see my sibling fidgeting, a glint of anxiety in their eyes that flickered like a dim flame. They shifted in their chair, glancing at me before breaking eye contact, clearly sensing the shift in family dynamics. My heart pounded in my chest as I wrestled with the tornado of thoughts tumbling around inside my mind. What if I was wrong? What if this was all a horrible misunderstanding? But deep down, I knew the truth I had uncovered, a truth so haunting that it felt like a weight pressing down on my chest, suffocating and unrelenting. With a deep breath, I steadied myself and cleared my throat, the sound echoing faintly against the walls. There's something we need to talk about, I began, my voice trembling slightly. My words hung in the air like a fragile glass ornament, ready to shatter at a moment's notice. I watched as my sibling's expression shifted from anxious anticipation to one of guarded dread. The realization of what I was about to reveal lingered between us, a chasm of accusation and betrayal. What is it? My father asked, leaning forward, his dark eyes narrowing. My mother paused, her fork suspended midair, a look of concern washing over her delicate features. The room fell silent, as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting for the storm to break. I took another deep breath, my fingers curling into fists on the table, holding tight to the resolve simmering within me. I found out about your secret investments, I said steadily, locking eyes with my sibling, who flinched as if struck. The ones you have been hiding from our parents. The shock on my parents' faces was undeniable, their expressions morphing from confusion to realization and then to disbelief. My father's mouth opened in a silent gasp, while my mother's eyes widened, her grip tightening around her fork. What do you mean? My mother finally managed to choke out, her voice wavering like a candle flickering in a gusty breeze. My heart surged with a twisted mix of rage and exhilaration, the thrill of revealing the truth igniting a fire in my belly. I have documents, proof of everything. My words felt powerful, each syllable a dagger aimed directly at my sibling. My pulse raced as I continued. About how you've been investing money in that failed startup, and worse, using mom and dad's trust to finance your ambitions while pretending everything is fine. My sibling opened their mouth ready to defend themselves, but no words came out. Their eyes darted from my parents to me, desperation washing over their face. You don't understand, they finally stammered, a quaver in their voice. I was trying to help us. I thought I could turn things around. Help us, I echoed, incredulous. By lying to us, by building this facade and pretending you were living your best life, what about the trust our parents placed in you? I jabbed a finger toward them, the action feeling both thrilling and terrifying. The tension in the room thickened, the familial bonds stretched to their limits, ready to snap. Why would you do this? My mother asked, her voice trembling with hurt and betrayal. Her usually warm tone felt icy, the love in her eyes tarnished by disbelief. We raised you to be honest, because you don't know what it's like to fight. My sibling shot back, their voice rising to a frantic pitch. I thought I could show you. I thought I could finally make my mark. Tears streamed down their face, each drop a testament to the exaggeration and desperation that surrounded their mindset. My father slammed his fist on the table, startling all of us. This is not about making your mark. This is about trust, about family. You never even considered how the shitstorm you created affects everyone in this house. He turned to look at my mother, pain etched in his brow. How could you hide this from us? We thought you were doing well. I was, my sibling cried, desperation dripping from their voice. I didn't want to disappoint you. You've always had such high expectations. I thought that if I could just make it, by risking everything, I interjected, my chest tightening with a mix of anger and sorrow. By using our parents as a safety net, you have a responsibility not just to yourself but to this family. I was trying to protect you. They yelled, almost too loud for the room that had grown somber. You don't know what it's like to feel stuck in someone's shadow, always compared, always second best. This was my chance. My heart twisted. I felt for them, but they were wrong. They had betrayed us all. My insides roiled with complicated emotions, a mixture of pity and a fierce need for justice. I locked eyes with my parents, who were silent now, grappling with the reveal unfolding before them. In that moment, the family I once thought was unbreakable seemed shattered, splintered by mistrust and unpredictability, and I could feel the ground shift beneath me, uprooting everything I had ever believed. As my siblings slumped back in their chair, defeated yet defiant, I could hear my heart pounding, merging with the silence that filled the room. We cannot move forward without honesty, I said finally, my voice steady, filled with a newfound strength. And you need to face the consequences of your actions. The weight of the truth hung heavily in the air as we all sat there, grappling with the storm unleashed, aware that nothing would ever be the same again. In that moment, I realized that revenge was not just about the destruction of trust, but also the painful necessity of relaying the brutal truth. The only way toward healing in the wreckage they had created. As my siblings' facade crumbled, the air in the room seemed to thicken like molasses, heavy with unspoken words and a history that threatened to drown us all. My heart raced in my chest, not out of fear, but out of exhilaration. The truth was breaking free, and I was no longer an outsider in my own family. How could you keep this from us? My voice rang out, clear and firm, cutting through the murmur of disbelief. My parents' eyes, wide with shock, shifted between my sibling and me, as if trying to piece together the puzzle that had eluded them for so long. I didn't mean to, my sibling stammered, their once confident mask slipping completely. It was a sight I never thought I would relish, but there I was, reveling in the moment as the weight of invisibility finally fell off my shoulders. All those years of feeling like a ghost in my own home, hushed and dimmed, felt like a distant memory now. Didn't mean to, I echoed, incredulous. You lied to us again and again. You made me feel like I was always in the wrong. My words spilled out, flooding the space between us with everything I had held back. I felt the heat of their gaze, a mix of anger and despair directed at me, but it only fueled my resolve. Amelia, this isn't the time, my mother began, but I cut her off, unwilling to let their attempts at reconciliation silence my voice once more. No, Mom, this is exactly the time, I insisted, my heart pounding, not just with fear but with a fierce determination. For too long, I stood by while you praised every little achievement. I smiled while they took credit for my work, my struggle, my pain. I deserved to be heard too. I glanced over at my parents, whose expressions were softening, the realization finally settling upon them like a warm blanket. Amelia, we had no idea, my father started, but I raised a hand, needing to take this moment for myself. No, Dad, you didn't want to know. You kept your blinders on because it was easier. I was the quiet one, the one who wouldn't cause trouble. But you know what? I'm tired of being the invisible sister. I'm tired of waiting for crumbs from their table. The familiar taste of bitterness clawed at my throat, but I pushed it away, feeling the sweet tang of liberation replace it. Silence enveloped us like a thick fog for a moment, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I could almost hear the clock ticking, marking the seconds of uncharted territory for our family. My siblings shifted uncomfortably, their facade crumbling further, the polished image they had crafted now shattered like glass around us. Amelia, please, they pleaded, their voice cracking. I never meant to hurt you. I was just trying to keep things together. You know how hard it is. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything I had wanted to yell but couldn't. You could have talked to me. You could have asked for help instead of lying. But you chose to put yourself first without considering how it affected me. I felt like a ghost in this family, and I won't let that happen anymore. The room buzzed with tension, the awkward silence punctuated only by the sound of my parents shifting in their seats, their expressions grim but surprisingly understanding. You both have to understand, my mother started, her maternal instinct kicking in as she tried to restore balance. I'm not sorry for what I did, my sibling interjected, the defiance in their voice rising, a last-ditch effort to cling to their fading power. This was about survival, Amelia. You've always had it easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you forget that we're all just trying to make it here? Easy, I shot back, incredulous. You think not being seen is easy. You think battling for approval and recognition is a piece of cake. It feels like I'm drowning while you float by on a raft you stole from me. Enough. My father finally barked, his booming voice breaking the tension like a crack of thunder on a summer day. This fighting won't solve anything. We need to find a way to move forward together, not pull each other apart. His words hung in the air, heavy but necessary, and slowly I felt a change in the dynamics. My siblings' shoulders sagged, their bravado fading as my parents turned their focus toward me. Amelia, we see you now. We hear you, my mother said softly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. We should have done better. We should have been better. It was as if the floodgates had burst open. A sense of warmth enveloped me, a new recognition blossoming in the room as I felt my courage carving its place in our family identity. I slowly nodded, the emotions swirling within me both raw and healing. Thank you for saying that. This isn't just about the past, but about how we move forward. My sibling glanced at me, vulnerability flashed in their eyes, and for the first time I saw their mask crack, no longer the bully, the favored one, but simply them struggling to keep afloat. Can we just start over? They asked hesitantly, their voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, I replied, my heart softening. Let's figure out how to rebuild from here. A tremor of hope danced through the air. It was fragile, yet it held monumental power. I took a deep breath and embraced the sense of liberation washing over me, grateful for this painful yet clarifying journey that led us to this point. The remnants of my siblings' glory faded into the background, and for the first time, I felt truly free, ready to shape my identity within our family to forge a more equitable future.